Let's start with the poetry stuff. How did you get started writing poetry?
I was an art student in high school, and my dad was wanted to be an artist, so I kind of was living his dream, and they pulled together enough money from an inheritance to send me to art college in Oakland, California College of Arts and Crafts. And like most colleges, you have your regular curriculum, and one class we had curriculum. I can't. These are new dentures too. The curriculum was normal, and you had basic English. And my English teacher was Michael McClure, the beat poet. And he's not a real well known, not as well as Ferlinghetti, whatever, but pretty well known in the '60s in the beat era. Anyway, he was our English teacher, and so he started teaching us. Not only he really concentrated on poetry, he didn't concentrate on conventional English. We didn't have to write conventional English theses or essays. He'd make us write one word poems. We'd write our favorite items on a card, on a 3x5 card, one word at the top of the card. And then you flip through it and it creates a poem. And so he'd make us write poems in class that way. And I wanted to meet some girls, so I'd go down to, go down to the Forum Coffee Shop in Telegraph Avenue, and I'd start writing poetry while I was drinking cappuccino at night, after class. And McClure brought in poets, famous poets, to meet with us and read to us in the cafeteria. Ferlinghetti, Ginsberg, Corso, all of these famous guys. And so I just kind of got immersed in it. And one day in between class, I had my there was no parking lot, so you parked wherever you could around town, around the campus, and I was parked on Broadway Terrace, and I was sitting there waiting for my next class, and a poem came to me, and I got out of my car, used my hood of my car for a for a desk, wrote this poem in about 30 seconds, and about a couple weeks later, I sent it in to this magazine. This book I heard about magazine, and they published it. They paid me $35 for it, and in '64, $35, well, a decent amount of change, and I was hooked. I figured if I can write this stuff, and then the next two or three sold right away. I didn't get as much money for them, but I sold right away. So that's how I got started on deciding I was going to write poetry.
You hear it's like musicians. A lot of guys try it, but they're not getting money.
Yeah,
They start with that.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have any tips for guys that want to get it?
If you want to write poetry, here's the secret right here. Carry a notepad with you. Very important. Now, in today's world, they can do it on their iPhone, I think, or an app, whatever. But I always carried a notepad with me and two pens in case you run out of ink. The thing about writing anything is when you get the inspiration, when it hits you, write it down as fast as you can and gather it all. Don't try to edit it. Don't say, well, I can't use that word. Even if you use the word because twice or whatever, just write down the idea. Once you get that written down, then you go to the editing process. Writing, whether it be a poetry or an article, is all about steps. The creative process first, gather it like you're filming today, and we may edit this or whatever. Gather the data quickly, then take a day or two or an hour or two or whatever, then go to the editing process and select your best words that you want. So let's just say you have because and you don't like that word, go to your thesaurus, get a better word that you like better. And then go and try to, if you're working free verse, which is tougher to write than rhymed verse or a haiku, because those standards already give you borders and boundaries. Free verse doesn't give you any boundaries. You have to create your own rhythm. You have to create your own boundaries. So go through and start getting your rhythm to the poem and speak it out loud if you have to. And then after that, then you go cleaning up editing as far as the proper words and cleaning up. Does it have are you apostrophe it's or not? So then you clean up and then show it to somebody before you release it to the world. If you're not showing your writing to someone else, all you're doing is writing a diary. Just like a 16-year-old girl after school at the end of the day is writing a diary, you're just writing a diary. So you have to decide if you're going to be a writer and open yourself up to criticism, or if you're just going to write a diary and keep it yourself. So that's the big key to the whole thing.
What's some of your favorite verses? I mean, what's the ones you've written?
What's my favorite what?
Your poems.
You know, I've written so many. I don't. It's usually like Rod McEwen says. It's mostly the one you just recently wrote that's your favorite. There's only one that I can actually memorize. People think me I can memorize them all. There's only the one I can memorize called Some Quiet Times. But the rest of them, they just there's so many that I've done. And our book we do. I used to do about. 200 to 300 a year in the books, and now we've cut it down to about 50 or 60. And I don't throw as many out, but I don't write as many as I used to. I used to write about 1,000 poems a year early on, and now I'm writing about, maybe between 150 and or so max, and then I edit the book down when we do our annual book.
So is there anything you do for inspiration? Like I know your paintings and your poetry?
The poems there's three types of poems. There's the poem that inspiration comes to you. You run to a desk to get a piece of paper, and you write it down as fast as you can, and you're just the vehicle, and it just came through you. Then there's a type where for me, I get a first line. It comes to me. I write that down, and I can write that line down and remember enough of it the next day to create a poem from it. And then there's the autobiographical poem, which is more of you're talking about your cat. You're talking about your best friend or whatever. And some of them are mixed up. Some people believe that all poetry is autobiographical. A lot of times girlfriends or wives believe that. When you write a poem about a female, they think, well, this was about another lover or whatever. And it's really not that case. It's very rare that you're writing that kind of a poem. Autobiographical poems are pretty deliberate, and I don't think they come out as well as a creative process poem, is what I call it.